Welcome to AI Book Highlights.
Great to be here.
Today we're looking into Philip J. Corso's The Day After Roswell. And this isn't your typical UFO story rundown.
Not at all. We're really focusing on Corso's main claim
Which is?
that the U.S. Army secretly got hold of technology from that Roswell crash and, well, used it to kickstart major advancements, military and civilian tech.
Right. So the idea is some tech we use today might have, well, hidden origins.
Exactly. So over the next, say, 15 minutes or so, we're going to pull out 5 key highlights from Corso's account.
And then distill those into 3 actionable takeaways for you, especially if you're interested in how secrecy, technology, and history kind of intersect.
Okay, let's get started. Where do we begin? Roswell, 1947.
Yep, got to start there. July 47. Corso talks about radar operators, not just at Roswell, but also White Sands and El Magordo.
Right, multiple locations tracking these, well, unidentified blips.
And the movements were described as, completely impossible for any aircraft they knew about back then, just zipping around.
That multi-point confirmation is pretty interesting in his account. Then he gets into the crash itself. He describes the craft as dark-skinned and mostly intact.
Which is weird, right? Not like a normal plane crash debris field.
Very different. And then the occupants, he describes these small figures, maybe 4.5 feet tall, dark gray.
And there's that disturbing part, too, about one surviving figure allegedly being shot by nervous soldiers.
Yeah, a grim detail.
Yeah.
He also mentions civilians, like a fireman named Dan Dwyer supposedly seeing the bodies.
Which leads straight into the military reaction. Immediate lockdown, clamping down on any information getting out.
That swift control is a key part of the story. Corso points out how the recovered material, the cargo, was quickly shipped off to right field.
Under wraps, basically.
Totally. The initial manifests apparently listed things like spare aircraft parts, mundane stuff.
Corso's take is that this was deliberate misdirection. A smokescreen.
Absolutely. To hide the real nature of what they found. So yeah, highlight 1, the strange incident, the craft, the beings, and that immediate, intense secrecy.
Okay, let's jump forward. Early 1960s. Corso's working at the Pentagon.
1961, yeah. He lands at the Foreign Technology Desk in Army Research and Development. Sounds pretty standard.
Analyzing captured Soviet tech, that sort of thing.
Presumably. But then, out of the blue, this locked file cabinet shows up.
Filled with
artifacts. Allegedly, items recovered from the Roswell crash, sent over from General Trudeau's office. This is where Corso says his direct involvement began.
So what kind of stuff was in there? This is highlight 2, right? The actual tech?
Exactly. He describes some really bizarre things, like a piece of material that was like fiber optics, but also like cloth and metal.
How does that even work?
He said the fibers could somehow reorient themselves if you stressed them, almost like an intelligent fabric.
Okay, that's strange. What else?
There was this device that looked like a pencil flashlight, but instead of visible light, it emitted some kind of invisible beam that could scorch things.
A weapon?
Initially, maybe they thought so, but Corso later theorized it might have been more like a surgical cutting tool. Precision implement?
Wow. Okay. Anything else stand out?
Yeah, the headband. A device that fit on the head with these electrical pickups. Nobody knew what it was for.
Just a weird headband.
Pretty much. It was almost dismissed. But later, Corso connects this to potential brainwave monitoring or even control systems, much more advanced than it looked.
So the scientists looking at this stuff initially, back at Wright Field maybe, they were stumped.
According to Corso, yeah. They couldn't figure out how these things worked, and crucially, what powered them. No obvious batteries or power sources.
So highlight 2 is Corso's personal encounter with these deeply puzzling, maybe alien artifacts.
Precisely. The nuts and bolts, as he called it.
Which brings us neatly to highlight 3. The idea of reverse engineering. This is the core of the book, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Corso's main argument is that even though they were initially baffled, this Roswell material did get studied, and it eventually spurred huge technological leaps.
But secretly. Hidden within existing R&D projects.
That's the claim. Masked, so people wouldn't connect the dots back to Roswell. Take that headband again.
The one they didn't understand.
Right. Corso links the concept behind it, interfacing with the user, maybe reading signals to the development of, say, navigational control systems for helicopters, early fly-by-wire ideas, perhaps.
So even if they couldn't replicate the alien tech directly, the idea sparked something new.
Exactly. It pushed them to think differently. He even suggests it influenced thinking about future consumer electronics, brain-computer interfaces way down the line.
He also had theories about the craft itself, didn't he? Like how it was controlled.
Yeah, the lack of joysticks or obvious controls led him to hypothesize about a brainwave guidance system. The pilot was somehow part of the craft's operating system.
And the suits the beings wore.
He theorized their skin-tight coveralls might have been part of the system too, maybe involved in electrical storage or generation. The beings integrated with the machine.
It's a radical concept.
It is. But Corso argued that just trying to understand that alien power source, even failing initially, could revolutionize human propulsion research. That drive was key.
So, highlight 3 is this alleged secret process. Taking alien concepts, even if not fully understood, and using them to seed human technological breakthroughs.
You got it. The push from the unknown.
Okay, highlight 4. Let's get specific. What technologies does Corso claim were directly influenced or accelerated by Roswell?
He lists quite a few. Night vision is a big one. He claims eyepieces found on the alien bodies gave researchers at Fort Belvoir a huge boost.
Like they suddenly understood how to amplify light much better.
That seems to be the implication. A giant leap, he calls it, beyond what they were already working on.
What else? Microchips.
Yes, integrated circuits. He points to these charred wafer-like things made of silicon or germanium found in the debris.
And connects that to the invention of the transistor and then the rapid miniaturization of electronics.
Correct. He mentions Bell Labs, Motorola, even suggests General Twining might have had early talks with them, potentially feeding them ideas or directions based on the debris. It's speculative, but that's his claim.
Fiber optics too, right?
Yep. He argues the alien craft used something like glass cables for transmitting information, and seeing that spurred research into optical fibers for high-speed, low-loss communication, basically proof of concept.
Makes sense. What about materials?
Super strong fibers. He connects the unique alien fabric, that cloth metal stuff, to the later development of materials like Kevlar.
Stronger than steel, lighter than nylon?
Right. He mentions Monsanto's work on synthetic spider silk and the Army's interest in body armor as being potentially nudged by studying that alien weave.
Any others? Food?
Weirdly, yes. Food preservation through irradiation. Corso notes the apparent lack of galleys or waste systems on the craft.
Suggesting the occupants didn't need conventional food or had incredibly advanced preservation.
The latter, he suggests. This allegedly pushed the Quartermaster Corps to focus more intensely on irradiation, which they were already exploring a bit.
Okay, one more.
Lasers. Lasers, yeah. The potential for directed energy, maybe hinted at by the cutting tool or other aspects, aligned with ongoing laser research.
So it influenced things like laser tracking, maybe even early ideas for missile defense?
That's the connection Corso makes. He ties it into the concept of an anti-missile, missile, and later SDI technology. So highlight 4 is this wide range of specific tech allegedly boosted by Roswell finds.
Okay, fifth and final highlight. This zooms out a bit to the Cold War context.
Right. Corso argues the whole Roswell cover-up wasn't just about preventing public panic, though that was part of it.
It was also strategic against the Soviets.
Yes. He suggests it allowed the U.S. to develop these potentially game-changing technologies in secret without tipping off Moscow. A hidden technological arms race, almost.
He even proposes the massive Cold War military buildup might have had a dual purpose.
Exactly. Officially, it was about deterring the Soviets. But Corso hints it might also have been about building up defenses against a potential extraterrestrial threat, a contingency plan.
That's a pretty big claim.
It is. He also touches on UFO sightings by astronauts and cosmonauts. Claims they were often told to keep quiet, using secure channels, reinforcing the secrecy theme.
And institutions like ARPA, now DARPA.
He suggests ARPA might have had a secondary, maybe hidden function, quietly gathering intelligence on UFOs and related advanced tech within universities and the scientific community.
Like an early warning system for exotic breakthroughs.
Potentially. He also talks about the difficulty of keeping such a huge secret, the interagency rivalries and conflicting agendas.
The points of things like Project Shamrock, long-term communications surveillance as proof that deep, long-running government secrecy is possible.
Right. And he brings it forward to the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI or Star Wars, suggesting technologies like particle beams might trace their conceptual roots back to Roswell material.
So highlight 5 is this whole Cold War shadow narrative. Secrecy, dual motives, managing information, and the long game of technological advantage, possibly on multiple fronts.
Well put. A secret history running beneath the official one.
Okay, so those are the 5 key highlights from Corso's perspective. Now let's talk takeaways for you, the listener. What can we draw from this? Takeaway 1.
I think the first one has to be about considering the real impact of classified information and, well, deep secrecy on technological progress.
You mean how innovation might actually happen versus the stories we usually hear?
Exactly. Corso's account, whether you buy it all or not, suggests major advancements can happen in the shadows, with their true origins obscured or delayed. It makes you question the standard timelines of invention.
Okay, so be aware that the public story might not be the whole story. Takeaway 2.
This one's about the convergence of different fields. Look at how Corso connects alleged alien materials or concepts to things as varied as body armor, fiber optics, even food preservation.
Right, it wasn't just about propulsion or weapons.
No. It highlights how a breakthrough, or even just a new idea in one area, can unexpectedly spark progress in completely different, seemingly unrelated fields. Science isn't always siloed.
That interconnectedness is definitely something to keep in mind. Good point. And the final takeaway, number 3.
This one's maybe the broadest. Be critical of official narratives, especially around really unusual or significant events.
Like Roswell, obviously.
Like Roswell, or anything where the stakes are high and information control is likely. Corso's book, regardless of its factual accuracy, really encourages you to dig deeper.
To look beyond the easy explanations and consider the motives behind why governments or institutions might act the way they do or say the things they say.
Precisely. Don't just accept the surface story, ask more questions.
So, to recap the takeaways, consider the hidden impact of secrecy on tech, recognize how different fields can converge unexpectedly, and maintain a critical eye on official stories.
That sums it up well. Philip Corso's The Day After Roswell, it's definitely controversial, no doubt about it.
But it does offer a compelling alternative view on a really pivotal time in modern history.
It suggests this hidden influence on the technology that, well, shapes our world today. Whether you see it as fact, fiction, or something in between, it certainly makes you think.
It absolutely does. It raises big questions about secrecy, innovation, and the great unknown.
So if this discussion has intrigued you and you want to get into the real nitty-gritty of Colonel Corso's claims, the specific details of the alleged technology,
we definitely encourage you to pick up a copy of The Day After Roswell. You can find a link to the book right there in the description below.
it's quite a read.
It certainly is. Well, thank you for joining us on AI Book Highlights.
We'll explore another fascinating topic next time.